This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, X Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And this show today is from the modern marvels of technology. I'm getting up there in age now, but I am still Instagram savvy, so I like following all these kids who catch them on Instagram. And one of the guys that I followed on Instagram know his dad really well. I still remember when his dad won that emotional, we'll talk to him about it, emotional Elite Series tournament. And I've always said you can tell how well you are liked on tour based on how many guys stick around for the extra day and help celebrate. Now, I'm not saying you're not liked if there's only 3 or 4 guys. Sometimes schedule dictates it. But when Britt Myers won his Elite Series tournament, like 3/4 of the field was there ready to tackle him as soon as he got off stage. Well, now there's another Myers that is fishing professionally. And I saw on Instagram, Britt Myers Jr. is dipping his toe into the MLF Invitationals. So I said, heck, let's do a show about it. There he is. Britt Myers Jr., thank you for jumping on BTL. I greatly appreciate it,
yes,
man.
sir.
Do you remember when your dad won that Elite Series tournament? Like, where were you when that went down?
I was on the front row, and actually the day before I had a tournament, a high school tournament. I think I was a freshman in high school, and I couldn't even focus on the tournament. It was we drove down from Falls Lake in North Carolina. A lot of people know where that is. It's a good lake. And we drove down the next day, and all my friends give me crap. They all have pictures of me crying for the of my dad winning. I'll send it random times.
So you weren't even able to focus on the fishing then. You're so keyed in
I
on
was,
that.
man. So a couple, 2012, I remember it.
Yep.
My dad finished second at Douglas, and I remember, man, I was young and I was so sad. So it was really emotional for him to win because, I mean, he was so close a couple times, and it's a big deal. So
didn't he finish second like back-to-back events?
Yep.
In 2012, like almost won, because there was the one that Overstreet has the photo of on Douglas where he's getting up on the front deck of the boat and he's like 2 foot above the boat. Like he remember he's
actually there's a photo of it right here.
Can you grab it? Grab that thing.
Yeah, I'll actually just hold on 1 second.
I love not planning anything. Sometimes it works out.
Yeah, you're talking about this photo right here?
Yeah, that's the one right there.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. I just remember that because he was like, go, 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 and would make like 5 or 6 casts in one spot and was on, and then finished second in back-to-back. One of them was on Douglas or Douglas and Bull Shoals.
Yep. Bull Shoals. That's yep. I remember that. And
how old were you then?
I was 11 or 12 years old when that happened. It was a while back.
How old are you now?
23.
23.
Yeah, so 11 years ago, 12 years, 13 years ago, really.
That's wild. And then obviously the win that your dad had on Winyah Bay, which was such a weird fishery, Winyah Bay, with as far as everyone was running, and he got on that. He got on like a really good chatterbait bite. Was it chatterbait and a fluke?
Yep, and I can tell you the crazy story about that. So, we have not been back there since. Really? I've had some when I was in college, I had some tournaments on the Waccamaw River and Santee River, but we never went back to the Cooper. And we always say we want to again just to do it, for old time's sake. But so that tournament, he had a phenomenal practice. I remember he was telling me he had like the best practice ever. He said one day he could have 30 pounds, and the first 2 days went good. I think he had 18 and 22, right at 22, and the third day he only had, I think, 7 pounds. And so where we're from, there's no herring, but Hartwell, Lanier, all them lakes, we fish those often too. And a fluke is just a big, good bait there.
Yep.
And for some reason, my dad that final day, during the day, decided to tie on that little fluke and just threw it. And he caught 9 pounds on it. And actually, he told me one of his keepers, he was just dangling over the trolling motor, just holding it there, not even thinking about it. It was just 12-incher or whatever the minimum was. And it barely measured. And he had no idea it was a winning fish. He was just holding it by the line.
Do you remember everyone mobbing him when he came off stage?
Yeah, I do remember that.
That was cool.
I thought I got ran over. I was up there too.
Yeah. So, I mean, is this a deal? Have you wanted to do this since you were a little kid? Like, has this always been kind of the path that you've wanted to be on?
Yeah, ever since I was young, when I was really young, I didn't really care for fishing.
Really?
And my dad never forced me into it or any of that. I mean, I kind of just got into it on my own when I was about 13 or so. And ever since then, that's all I've wanted to do. So, it's just one of those things. I really like it, and it'd be cool to make a living out of it. It's a hard thing to do, but if you work hard, it's just like anything else.
I know you did some college fishing stuff. Did you do the high school fishing? As you said, did you do the high school fish? So you've worked through the entire gamut of. Did you do juniors?
I didn't do juniors. I started bass fishing when I was 13. Like, I didn't know how to throw a bait caster until I was 13, 14, which is, a later start in a lot of the pros kids. It's kind of weird to say, but like I said, I wrestled, I played baseball and stuff. So I wasn't for a while. And then as soon as I got that fishing itch, man, I gave it all up. I didn't care about anything else.
What was it? Was there like a moment, a tournament, a fish or anything that got you oh, this is it?
And as stupid as it is, my dad had, from a young age, to me, I never understood, he had a cool, fully rigged bass boat, you know what I mean? So yeah. I could go out fishing with him whenever he went. That was, as bad as it is, it sounded normal to me because I was so young, I didn't understand. And I actually got the itch at a pond. It's my friend's pond. And actually, I'm going this afternoon. I haven't been in probably 3 or 4 years. Coincidentally, we're talking about this. And I caught a freak of nature. We didn't have a scale, but it's the biggest bass I'll ever catch in my whole life. And he caught one that we had a measuring tape I wasn't there when he caught it. He measured it. It was 28 inches long.
28, 28 inches. Holy cow. That's like 12, 13 pounder.
The one I caught was 100%. I don't know. It was over 12. Guarantee you. It was a freak of nature. And that when I caught that fish, I'll never forget, man. I caught an 8-pound line on a wacky rig, and we're the only 2 people allowed to fish the pond, really. And it's his uncle's pond, and it's in the middle of nowhere. And the bluegill are trained, and they're all this big. They're huge. Okay. And when he pulls, I remember like it's yesterday, he pulled a gator, like a John Deere gator around, and all the brim come to it because they know it's feeding time. And I remember I threw a wacky rig out there, and my line started swimming, and I'll never catch a bass that big again. I don't think I will, no matter where I go.
And you're hooked since then.
And that day, I was like, I remember my dad was actually in a meeting with a sponsor, and I text him. I said, "Dude, you got to FaceTime me." And he's like, "No." And I text him a picture of it. And he just walked out and FaceTime me. It was so big.
That's cool. And then you were like, "Hey, okay, I want to get into this tournament thing."
Yeah. And then after that, I got into some high school tournaments, and man, I was very blessed to have a short learning curve, and that's what impresses me most about some of these young kids that are coming into it. Mm-hmm. And so they don't have that learning curve. They don't have a dad or a lot of these kids don't have a parent or family member that fishes a lot. So to be as successful as they are, that's very impressive to me. Because, people like me, I didn't really have that much of a learning curve. I learned from an early age what was wrong and what not to do and how to practice and how to fish. So once I kind of got into it, and I learned a lot from my dad, and I can apply it to when I go by myself, and it really helped me be successful from its starting point.
Do you think that's one of the biggest issues in the high school fishing right now is you have all these kids who are gung-ho, they see the jerseys, the fancy boats, the sponsors, the trophies, but they don't have really, or there's not enough established anglers who are teaching them the fundamentals, the right way to go about it. So it ends up frustrating a lot of them.
Yeah. And it's I can see how it'd be frustrating. You see these guys and they have everything, they have these boats, what you don't. That's what people say it all the time. You don't need the nicest boat to go catch fish,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the truth. And they see these jerseys and everything, but dude, some of the best fishermen I know back home. I mean, they like we have some guys that live where I live, on Wiley, and they beat everyone's brain. I mean, I live scope a lot out here. Some of the best fishermen live scope, they beat everyone's brains out, not even using live scope in a metal boat. You know what I mean? And they make a lot of money or locally doing that. And it's not and it is. I could see from a perspective of a high school kid, someone whose dad's a pro, and they're like, man, I need that. And it is a blessing to have a learning curve like that, but you don't need that. I mean, you can do it without it. I mean, there's so many, you can look at a lot of pros nowadays that 10, 12 years ago didn't have anything. I mean, like my dad, he didn't even have a boat until he was like 22 years old. And now it has changed a little bit because everyone can get information. Like what I mean by that is like, there's so much on the internet you can look at and you can learn
That
quickly.
helps a learning curve.
Yeah. So that is a good thing now. Like if you put your time in research and you really, really all you care about is bass fishing, I mean, you're not going to do good every tournament. You're going to have terrible tournaments. Everyone in the world has terrible tournaments. But I mean, it seems like nowadays there's enough information out there. If you work harder than other people, you can be successful no matter what you come from.
So I know you spent a lot of time on the water, and you've dabbled in the BFLs before, have a couple of BFLs under your belt, but you jump into the Toyota series in 2023 this past year. And you fished two divisions, correct? The
Yes, sir.
Southern and the Northern division of the Toyota series. Was it your goal going into that to learn, to get experience under your belt? Was it your goal to move up and fish the invitationals? Or was this something where the opportunity presented itself with a lot of restructuring going on in fishing? You had a good year in the Northern division, points went down, you got an invite and said, heck, let's roll with it.
So my goal this year was just to become a better fisherman.
Okay.
I had never fished, a big trail like that, nationally. And I'd actually never been to Eufaula. I'd never been to Okeechobee. I'd never been to Champlain. I'd only been like two of those lakes ever on the schedule. And so in my head, I'm like, man, it's going to be hard to even think about qualifying for the invitationals. I mean, because and it's not possible, but you got to think like those lakes are places where they go year after year after year. So there's a lot of guys who are phenomenal fishermen that fish those events. And I'm like, man, my goal this year is to learn these lakes because I know I'm going to come back. And if I don't make it, that making it it was my goal, but it wasn't at the same time, if that makes sense. And I mean, like the Southern division, I stunk it up. I ain't gonna lie. I had a good opportunity to have a really good event at Eufaula. I think I finished 40 something there, but I'm not good in Florida. I mean, that's just it. I'm not good in Florida, and I knew that's why I wanted to do the Southerns. I wanted to learn as much as I could and see how I could do, and I learned a lot. And I think next time when I go back down there, I can have a much better event. But like Okeechobee, I'd never been, and I had like 4 days of practice. I was like, dang, this is,
I've never been there either, and I've covered a couple tournaments there, but I've never fished it. And I got that open coming up in February, and
dude,
I may make a trek down there prior to off limits just so I know how to get around to the north and south end of that pond because it's like the 5th largest lake in the country.
Yeah, I'll tell you about. I actually had a phenomenal practice, and the fishing was horrible. I don't know if you saw the weights, but I don't think it even took 10 a day to get paid. And I don't know what was so bad about it, but I had a really good practice. Well, the wind blew like really hard overnight, and I get in that area, it looked like chocolate milk, and it looked beautiful the day before.
You knew,
and everyone talks about dirty water in Florida. I'm like, nah, I got this. I'll still catch them. Nope, that didn't happen at all. So I went and scrambled up what I could catch, and I mean, I finished like 100. Which, I mean, I was like,
caught 5 each day, though.
Yeah.
Better than nothing.
And, but it was just one of those things where this year was a great learning year. And I'm really excited for the Invitationals to go back to Eufaula in May because that's when I went this year and I spent a lot of time out there practicing. And that was a brutal event. I don't know what was wrong with the lake. Like, I mean, it literally took 18 pounds for 2 days to get
So
paid.
you follow Alabama.
Alabama, yes,
The one
sir.
that Justin Lucas won. Yeah, it was like a weird
Lucas won that
I
one,
talked
yep.
to my buddies out there. They said it was like a weird in-between phase, and then the fish that were on the brush were getting hammered because everyone knew where it was, and it was just a weird transition period.
And I couldn't scope them to save my life there, so I actually found a place that I'm really excited to go check again this year. You can't see them on live scope.
Oh.
But you can see it, but you can't see the fish, and you just had the blind cast.
You gave it away. It's got to be a shell bed.
And it was crazy. Like, I'm really excited to go back because I mean, the second day I didn't have a great day, but I didn't really. I started doing it late in the day, and I had a better than average bag, and I think I missed a check by 10 ounces it was, and I only had 4 the first day, and so I was like, man, next year if we get to come back, I'll be excited. And it wasn't on I can't remember. I don't think it's on the Toyota schedule. Well, then when I got the Invitationals invite, I looked at the schedule. I was like, dang, I kind of want to watch. That'll be the one I do bad in. But I'm excited to go back to there.
So, you're already going to be compared to your dad because your dad's an established pro that's been around for 20 years. All these kids are, whether it's Marshall Robertson or Alt Jr. when he jumped on, or any of the guys that are Laker Howell. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it doesn't sound to me like your dad's like, hey, here's all my waypoints for Okeechobee. Hey, here's all my waypoints for over the 20 years that you follow. It sounds like you go out, you grind this stuff out yourself for the most part.
So my dad does help me sometimes, but so I'll give you a good example of this. At the Toyota on Potomac this year, a lot of guys texted me after and like, I saw you and your dad called them. You must have found a good area. You know what I mean? Like, dude, me and my dad called him completely, like,
really
180. I called him on light line, and he called him on dang big line. And we called him miles away from each other.
Were you like talking during practice and you're like, yes, yeah. you're in trouble that way. I'm going the opposite way, and your stuff's gonna fizzle out. And he's going, young buck, you don't understand how this game is played.
So we talked. I actually had a phenomenal first day of practice. I had like 18 pounds. And I was like, that was my first day ever on the Potomac. And I told my dad, I'm like, yeah, this place is pretty good. He's like, dude, you have no idea what you just did. Well, the next 3 days of practice, I figured out how tough it was. I don't think I had a limit the next 3 days. And I remember I found a secondary area where I knew I could catch 11 a day, and I knew that'd be a good event. But I was like, you know what? I'm always the guy that fishes to be consistent. I'm always like that. But for that event, I was like, dude, I said, there's no way I'm making the championship unless I freaking go head hunting. And that's what I did. And actually, what's something funny is I actually caught a 4-pounder right beside the check-in boat the second day. I was doing it at 4:30, and at 4:24, I caught it.
Wow.
I'm sure the whole way in heard me screaming. And I remember my dad, he had a great tournament too. He actually beat me in the tournament. But he actually found the same deal I found at a different area of the lake where I was saying I could catch 11 a day, and he found a better area for it. And man, he had a great event on that. But we caught him on completely different baits, completely different ways, and it was really cool because I was like, man, I can do this on my own. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's the best feeling is when you find something out that no one else is doing. Like I only saw one person in the entire event doing what I was doing that week. So I'm really excited to go back if we get to go back in September.
Sponsorship wise, as you get ready, this thing kicks off pretty soon. Talk about kind of what you'll be running. Have you had to pound the pavement for it, and anybody that you're excited to work with in the 24 season?
So I'm really excited to work with Duckett. Right now, that's one of my main sponsors. Mm-hmm. I've actually, I'm working on some stuff right now, and I did not expect to get an invite. I mean, I did decent in the points, but everything switched around the industry,
Yeah. So what were you, 27th? And they typically, I think they were supposed to take like the top 5 or 10 or something like that, but because of how everything is moving around. And this is not uncommon for the Toyotas. There's been years where guys out of the Yotas or Costas down to 80th have gotten an invitation to fish the tour.
And so I literally got.
How did it come? Like you got a phone call?
So I was actually washing my boat because I had a guide trip last week, and I was washing my boat to get it cleaned up for it, and my hands were all soapy, and I felt my phone ringing, And I just kind of pulled it out of my pocket barely to not get my pocket soaked, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know that number. So I just kind of hung up, put it back in my pocket. Well, about an hour later, I go inside. I'm done cleaning my boat, and I look, and it said voicemail from that number. I click on it, and I put it on. It's like, you've received the invite to the invitation. I was like, oh, heck. And I had 3 days to make my decision. So I was like, holy cow, this is kind of a big thing to do. And so, I'm trying to pursue some sponsorships heavy, but you gotta show the sponsorships are not about, hey, give me this, give me that. It's about what you can do for them. That's the main thing. And so, that's what I'm trying to see, to show companies what I can do for them. And on top of that, the main thing is, the hard decision for me was I got a lot back home. So it was like, it was hard to do the math. Like, I'm going to be gone this many weeks,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also young. I don't have kids yet, so I'm like, dude, if I have a kid one day, like in the next couple of years, it'd be hard to pursue this, and you hear people like, man, how did people decline those invites? I could see it firsthand easily. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yep.
so I was like, I'm young. I got the chance. I'm going to take it. I'm going to work as hard as I can at it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you never know. I mean, there's people that have these years that just happens. And maybe
Yeah.
next year I have a great year. The goal is just fish as hard as I can. That's it.
I didn't realize you guided as much. How long have you been doing that?
I actually started this year in July, but it's taken off pretty good. So I've been pretty blessed with it.
Lake
And I
Wiley, or
did,
where are we guiding at these days?
all over the state. So like I do Hartwell, Wiley, Lanier. I haven't done any on Lanier, but like I'll offer Lanier if someone
Yeah.
wants to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And most of them are Hartwell, Kiwi, Norman are my top three. I do some on Clarks Hill too.
Dude, those are like, I've never been on Kiwi, but Hartwell
Dude.
and Norman are in my top three. I hear Kiwi's good, but like, I fish it open on that. I fish a number of tournaments on Hartwell, and
I
that's
remember you did great in that open on Hartwell.
probably one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on, because all I see you is with just like 5+ pound spots from all over, and it makes me so jealous because I still haven't cracked a 5 out there.
I haven't caught many out of Hartwell. I've caught a couple. A 5 out there is big. It's pretty rare, and usually this is the time of year that from now to like March is when you see them. Randomly in the summer, that's when you'll get one that's a freak of nature, but it just isn't dense. You know what I mean? It doesn't weigh as much. But like, I don't think anyone understands how good Lake Hartwell is. It gets a tremendous amount of pressure, and it puts them out. Like my buddy this week, he had there was a 2-day tournament. He had like 16.5 and 21 and 1. And you got to imagine the amount of pressure a place has. And it's not like it has grass. I mean, you'll go to a place and there'll be 100 fish there, and you'll go the next day after 2 days of 200 boat tournaments, and there'll be more. It's like, where do they even come from? And but we're really blessed around here. You'll hear people around us say, like, man, these lakes are tough, but there's a lot of places in the country they haven't been to see what tough is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like where I live is awesome, man. Because it's so much like where I love fishing Lake Wiley almost more than any lake in the country. Just the way it fishes, it's different. And then Lake Norman's way different than that. And all the lakes around here are so much different. We have Murray. Murray fishes like Hartwell, but it's all 4-pounders.
So it's basically the same except just bigger.
It fishes the exact same except no spotted bass, and they're all
Look
big.
at all those spots. I just got like that on your Instagram. Like those are like freaks. So, okay, here's an interesting thing. So I started fishing, I think Hartwell, my first year was like 2016, 2017, no forward facing sonar. I keep up to date with what's going out in the Carolinas. If I ever move anywhere, it's going to be somewhere in that neck of the woods. Yeah. Has it completely changed how those fish are targeted, caught, who's doing well, how they're doing well since 2017 when Panoptics first came to 2023 now? I mean, you said you're 24. I'm doing the math. When you started, like you like came right in as that bite was being exploited. Like that whole part of the country, the way those fish are targeted and caught has done a complete flip-flop over the past 5-6 years, hasn't it?
Yes. So I love live scope probably just about as much as anyone. I'm a big fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
When I go fishing, when I go fun fishing, I don't necessarily go fun fishing. Every day I try to figure out more ways to make certain fish bite with live scope, if that makes sense. Because there are ways to catch fish that that won't bite other stuff, if that makes sense. And that's why you see people like Drew Gill, who's a daggone stud. He's casting the same fish other people are casting it, but he catches them. And so I actually fished Hartwell. I think I grew up in the perfect era because I understood how to fish offshore before it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a lot of success on Hartwell from 2015 to 2017 and without live scope doing the same deal. And nobody really did it as much, if that makes sense. Like, Hartwell. Any freaking point you pull up on, there's a school of them. It's easy to find them. But back in the day, you got to think these cane piles they're this wide.
And now, they don't show up on anything.
So now with live scope, you just shoot first cast. Back in the day, you had to make 20 casts on a point. And what I would do, I'd pull up, just bomb cast everywhere. Back in the day, you're like, I'm throwing in the middle of nowhere. Here they come up, eating my fluke and my top water. And now it's like, I'm only in 20 foot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's different with live scope. And it was way, as crazy as it was more fun back then because you didn't know when you're getting bites.
Yeah.
But you got like 6-7 bites a day. But they were the same quality, and they'd always have it choked. Now, oh my gosh. Me and my dad fished a tournament there a couple of weeks ago. It was a big tournament. And we had, everybody says this, but we had like a mega sack. Just every one of them missed our baits, took our fluke off, knocked our top water in there. And they used to not, they did it in the past, but not like they do now. They're smart, way more educated. And, Hartwell's, I would say, is one of the more affected lakes by it just because it's so easy to find them.
Okay, so more so than Murray or a Kiwi or
Kiwi's kind of affected, but Kiwi's always one shallow, so it doesn't really.
Okay.
It doesn't affect it as much. Like Wiley, where I live, people use it, but it's way harder to find fish. Like a lot of the fish live so tight at the bottom because that's just how they are here, and you can't see them. And you have to know what to look for before live scope. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of lakes in the country that I think are still like that, where people say, "Oh, live scope's going to ruin it." It's not. There's so many fish that live on the bottom and you still can't see. Like especially ditch fishing, on Hartwell, Russell, them lakes in the wintertime, you'll you have to go blind fishing. You can't use live scope. And when you hook one, live scope, when you hook a fish and your live scope is pointing at them, all you see is, and you're like, dang, where were they?
That's interesting.
So I think there's a lot of stuff still to be, there's, when live scope shows what lives on the bottom, that's when it's going to get crazy.
Do you have a lot of grass around you at all? Or is that going to be one of the things that you have to really kind of learn how to tackle?
So I have a little bit of grass. Murray has some grass now, and they're actually catching some out of it. But it's not like a bunch. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I actually enjoy grass fishing. I spent about 850 hours at Potomac fishing grass offshore for the Toyota series, and I never caught like 1 4-pounder in practice. So I actually enjoy it. And actually Santee Cooper, they're allowing all the grass to come back. So
nice.
When that happens, y'all are about to see probably the best lake in the country come back. It might be something unreal in a couple of years if they let it all stay.
All right. Let's take our first break of the show. We're talking with Britt Myers Jr. MLF Invitational angler. You used to that? You used to that yet, or is that still have a nice ring to it?
It's pretty cool, but I'm getting used to it.
All right. BTO. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top one on Strike King.
All right, guys. If you're a construction worker, soccer dad, soccer mom, you want to be outdoors, you've seen the Reaper. This right here is the zip-up full Reaper, but it's windproof, folks, windproof. And it actually has the mast built in. It's behind me. I mean, if you can look good, feel good, and stay warm, you better check it out. It's the zip-up Reaper. That's right, windproof.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
All right, welcome back. BTL, talking with Britt Myers Jr. Rookie on the MLF Invitationals in 2024. We talked about the guiding before. Is that like your full-time job now? Like, is that what you're doing? Are you a full-time fishing industry person?
Yep, that's what I'm doing. It's pretty cool. I really enjoy it because, you know, I get to be around fishing as much as I need to be, and that's really how you succeed, I think. As a top level guy, you got to be doing as much as you can.
How many days are you on the water a week now?
I would say between 4 to 5 most weeks.
So like every day.
Yeah, pretty a lot. But I try to. The thing is, I try to spread it out where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend so many days one place unless I have a tournament coming up or something. But I try to gain as much knowledge on different places around where I live as I can, because where I live is a pretty big tournament hub. So I mean, they go to Murray. I think Clarksville will start becoming a much bigger tournament lake.
So it was, and then the Elite Series went there, and Kenyon won it, and that was the big Sabile Magic Swimmer, and that was when they chucked the top waters across the points, and it'd be 4 to 6 pounders. But then it seemed like after that first couple times the Elite Series went there, it was kind of like almost on a downward turn where it got a little bit tough.
Yep. So what's happened there is they killed all the hydrilla, and it's kind of rebounding back now, and spots have finally got in there. I went the other day, and there's some giant spots, but like there's been some 16, 17 pound bags weighed of all spots winning tournaments, which is awesome to see because that place is so big and there's not much around it. It's not going to get a bunch of pressure. And I went the other day and I don't know how many I caught. I mean, it's like I went with no preconceived notions. I didn't fish any history there, and I guarantee you I caught 50 fish. I mean, it's that good, and there's that many bass in it. I don't know if they had a good spawn a couple years ago or what's going on, but it's infested with spots now. Like, and there's good ones too. And there's still big, giant, largemouth that get caught.
Is that your favorite fish to catch, a spot?
Yeah, most of the time. I mean, because there's like, especially in the fall, you can win with them. With all spots, even on Wiley and Norman, you know, usually you need a big largemouth, but they're getting big here. So, but like Hartwell and Lanier yesterday had a tournament. My buddy had like, I think he finished 6th with 20.4 of all spots.
Have you had one of those freak show days on Lanier yet? Like a upper 20s, low 30s bag of spots?
I haven't had one. I've had 2 days I had 20. I haven't got to spend a ton of time on Lanier, if that makes sense. I mean,
How far is that for you?
It's 3 hours from my house.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
But I've spent enough. I spent a lot. I mean, I spent a lot of time out there, but not like, you know, I haven't been in the heydays when it's like when it the best times of the year. But I've had some 20s. I've had some good tournaments there.
How do people get a hold of you if they want to jump in the boat? And how have you built your clientele? Because I would imagine it'd be hard to start a guiding business.
Yeah, so I started really, I do just advertisement on Facebook, and it just seems that's been my best way so far. And you know, I started an LLC with it, and I just kind of advertisement on Facebook, Instagram, different stuff. And I guess word of mouth gets out pretty quick. So if a guy has a good time, he'll tell someone. So it's been pretty cool. I really like it.
And your dad giving you any business tips? Because I mean, he happens to be a pretty successful business owner in his own right. CS Motorsports, for those of you who don't know, Britt Myers, you know, the truck wrap, accessories, the whole 9 yards is all your dad's business.
Yeah, he's helped me a lot with it, you know. And my mom, she's really good with the, you know, the financial side of stuff, setting up stuff, making sure you're doing everything the right way, like a business should. You know what I mean? So I've had a tremendous amount of help from them. So it's definitely not all me.
So have you walked through and done like the schedule and the cost per each event and with the entry fees and what you're actually going to be in this year yet?
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, you know, when I'm like, you know, I got the opportunity this year while I'm young, and I mean, it's hard to make sense of it, but you know, I mean, you never know what could happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to work hard and try not to think about that too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You rolling with anybody?
Definitely. I've talked to some people. I'm not sure exactly who yet, but I think I got an idea of who I'm rolling with so far.
Okay. Kicking things off. Holy cow. That's like 2 months away. The first stop at Rayburn in February. You ever been to Rayburn before?
Never been, but I'm going to go try to get some time in before that 30-day off limits, because I know that place is a beast.
Yeah, I know you have 30-day off limits. I can assure you that spotted bass will not help you at that event.
Yeah. I know there's some there, but they aren't the ones I need.
Listen, back in college, Chip Porcher and I weighed in like a 6-pound, 9-ounce 5 bass limit of spotted bass on Rayburn. And I vividly remember the weighmaster being like, dude, I've weighed in a lot of limits on Rayburn. This is the smallest 5 fish limit I have ever seen on Rayburn. I mean, we had 5 little cookie cutter spots. We caught the heck out of them. Did not help us at all.
I've heard there's a lot of them, but I mean, I think I'll get my goal down there.
Matt Reed was telling me, he's like, when you're catching spots, he's like, keep catching them. He goes, and then when you stop catching them, he goes, that means the bass you want to catch have swam into the area and they see that the spots are. He's like, they treat them like shad on that lake.
Really?
He said, so when the spots stop biting, he said, you're about to get smoked by something real.
That'd be good. I actually went to Falcon one time with Matt Reed.
Dude, he's awesome, isn't he?
Yeah.
Do you guys lean on him on a big worm?
Yeah, I caught him on a big jig, a big worm, crankbait. It was awesome.
He's got the guiding thing figured out. I've said that. We've had him on the show before, Log Type Pro Matt Reed, but he's got like the return clients that come in. So it's like fishing with buddies every single time he goes. And he's got them so dialed in out there. And then we'll do like a day and a half of bass. And then in the second half, they'll go catch 20, 15 to 17 inch crappie and knock the sides off, send them home with a bag.
But man, it was tough today. We only had 30 pounds.
Yeah, no, there's no spotted bass. Is West Point a spot lake? Are there spots on that might play?
I'm actually not sure. I haven't been there. my dad actually qualified for the elites because of West Point Lake a long time ago. And we have not ever been back since, but I'm not sure if there are spots.
That was Steve Kennedy skipping a Cinco under overhanging trees out in the middle of flats. That's how he caught him there. I remember him hooking up under those cypress trees out there. They were like just individual ones. He skipped that Cinco. Actually, it was a what was the one he was sponsored by? Was it Konami? Yeah, Konami Flash.
I caught a 9-pounder on Lake Norman 2 years ago. My dad has this giant box of like old Konami baits.
Yeah.
And he was like, just take those, because I mean, there's no reason to use new baits. I was just going fun fishing on Norman. I caught a 9-pounder on a 4-inch baby bass Konami.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this bait's probably ordered me.
Kentucky. I don't think spots will play in Kentucky. They have spots in Kentucky, don't they? Yeah, there's spots in Kentucky.
Yeah, I think the smallmouth are starting to become a big deal there now. Like way more than ever. I'm excited for that.
Lake Eufaula in Alabama, they have them, but like I said, that's Lake Eufaula in Alabama.
My Cullingler caught a daggum 3-pound 10-ounce spot. He
behind you
all day in the Toyota series. Yeah.
Okay, that might play.
I'm talking. He threw out in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, got her. And it was a big, giant one. I said, golly, I didn't know they got that big. I mean, that's probably a big one for there. I would not expect it.
And then you've got to be looking forward to Champlain and the Detroit River.
Yes, I'm very, very much looking forward to Champlain to build on what I found last year. And I mean, I haven't been to St. Clair. I have not been to St. Clair since LiveScope came out. So I don't even know how good it's going to be. But by looking at the weights and all them tournaments, it's got to be pretty stupid.
It is. The interesting thing that's going on now, especially on a place like St. Clair, is you're seeing the guys with I call them the saltwater transducers, or the not the 34s, but the ones they've got
the 62.
Like 300-foot range on it. So they're seeing these fish on these massive sand and grass flats on St. Clair, and then high bypassing it to it, switching it to the 34 and catching them.
That's freaking.
What are you running? How many deuces are you running?
This year, I was thinking about running 2, but I don't know what it is. I run the 34.
Okay.
And dude, it's just a bad dude. And
12-inch screen.
Yep, 12-inch screen. And I might get an extra one just in case something ever happens. But those things are almost like, I've ran one for 4 years now. I've never had a problem ever.
Yeah.
And the only reason I would run a spare is just in case something happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
you're not one of those guys that's like, I got one in down, one in forward, one in perspective, one on a turret.
But I have seen some cool perspective stuff for like Florida, like where you can see brim beds really, really well with it. So, I mean, maybe.
And I think they use it up north for boulders and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like up on Champlain. And if you get in the grass, you can see the holes in the grass. Like I know perspective and 360 has kicked my butt every time we've gone to Oneida, because those guys can just go, okay, there's a rock pile there, and there, and there's the grass edge, and there's a boulder right there, and then just cast their little Ned rigs over there.
That's where some crazy technology is going to come in one day. Like there's going to be something similar to that where you can see 360 degrees. That's going to be like insane.
But live.
Yeah, but live.
Actual live. Not that 360 isn't live, but like to where you'll be able to swim in 360. You don't have to wait for it to go around.
Something like that's going to change it all, especially for those grass and rock lakes.
If anyone wants to get a hold of you to spend a day on the water this winter or between, give your details out, and then also where all the listeners can kind of follow all of your adventures on the water.
So my Facebook is just Britt Myers Jr. Fishing. Same with my Instagram, and most of the time, the best way to message me is either on Facebook Messenger or just DM me on Instagram.
Okay.
And you can also email me at brittjrfishing@gmail.com. And that's probably the best way to reach me right there is those 3 ways.
Rest of December, January, in between tournaments, you're on the water guiding.
Yep, I have actually have one this weekend, one next weekend, and I think I have 2 the week after that. So.
Well, that's awesome, dude. I greatly appreciate you jumping on here. Like I said, I never talked to you at all in person. I was like, I have no idea if he could do a BTL interview, but we'll give her a shot. And I've enjoyed the hell out of it, man.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I will definitely be following you this year as you participate in the MLF Invitationals. 6 stops with the goal of making the BPT and learning more about fishing.
That's the goal. The goal is make the BPT. That's going to be hard as heck with all the stuff going on. Everyone going back to the Invitationals, so it ain't going to be easy, but we'll see.
Anything else you want to get in here before I let you go?
I just want to say thank you for having me on here, and it was a good time.
What cat are you running next year?
Just a cougar.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got you.
I've always ran that boat, and I just like it, man. And it's just something I'm used to, and I really like.
That's what I'm running now. I'm going just with the Puma in 24, but I've had this is my first cougar. I've had 2 Pumas and a Lynx. And this is my first
sick, man.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward
huge.
to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. All right, Britt, thank you for the time. Greatly appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you.
All right, see ya. All right, that is Britt Myers Jr. Seems like he's got a good head on his shoulder, spends time on the water. Like, even with this technology, what I've learned, what I've noticing is you look at like JT, a lot of the guys in the opens, you're looking at a lot of the younger guys on the BPT, the guys who made it through the invitationals. Doesn't matter what the technology is, they're pairing that with an inordinate amount of time on the water. So that's all we got for today. Great show. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow. See ya.